Broncos country, doesn't it just feel amazing that all is back right in the football world? The Denver Broncos are the next Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to break it down for you of how the Broncos, man, we're just a few moves away from being the next team to beat in the NFL. And I think at the very least, the team to beat in the AFC West. You might say, Dave, y'all were third place in the AFC West this year. What are you guys know? What are you talking about? Man, just hear me out. We got a lot of great things going for us. And with Bo Nix's rookie contract right now is the time to strike while the iron is hot. You see it. Teams can go from great to amazing in just 1 year. Look at what the Commanders did, right? So why can't we go from wild card, berth, to Super Bowl contender in 1 year? I'm going to show you guys how and why there's some important lessons to learn from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, y'all be sure, again, smash that like, subscribe, join the chat. I'll be going live here for a little bit, guys. But first takeaways from the Super Bowl was that, man, the Eagles' defensive line was absolutely dominant. And while we have a good defensive line, we have some fantastic edges. We should still be investing in the defensive line come this draft. Now, if guys like Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty, really, if it's Genty and Warren, those guys aren't available, even if Colston Loveland's still on the board, I think you have to consider defensive line. And again, we have DJ Jones that's coming up as an unrestricted free agent this year. Then next year, John Franklin Myers is a free agent. Right now, Zach Allen is a free agent after next year. So it's very important for us as the Denver Broncos looking ahead. They need to get more defensive linemen in the pipeline. We saw when you can get pressure with 4, that completely changes the entire way the Kansas City Chiefs play. And guys, they're not going to be able to pay their guard, their all-pro guard that is hitting free agency, and they have all sorts of offensive line issues. I think, yeah, as the Denver Broncos are looking at this thing, if you're looking at competing in the division, you need to make sure you're doubling down on your front 7, on your defensive line, because that's still going to be a weak area for the Kansas City Chiefs for years to come. You cannot fix your tackles and possibly, trying to find a new starting guard as well with $15 million of cap space. Patrick Mahomes, his cap hit is finally ballooning to well over $60 million this next year. We'll see. Maybe he's able to take a team-friendly deal that opens things up. But right now, they're going to have minimal cap space, and they're going to have, picks at the end of the draft like they normally have. So, yeah, when you look at the Eagles, yes, they brought in A.J. Brown. They traded for a true wide receiver 1, an elite wide receiver. They paid him money. Yes, they went out in free agency and got Saquon Barkley, who had one of the best years of all time at the running back position. Yes. But they've also drafted incredibly well. Let's talk about Devontae Smith. Some people were like, man, is this guy really worth a top 10 pick? He has shown that. Moving off of Zach Ertz for Dallas Goedert. I think that has been a seamless transition. Finding guys in free agency. I mean, Zach Bond was kind of like an Alex Singleton type signing here with the Broncos. Remember, Singleton was just a special teams guy with the Eagles. And they came here, starter, captain, all of that. But they even hit even harder with Zach Bond, free agent signing, and he turns into one of the best defensive players this year. So, yeah, it allowed them to go get a guy like Cooper DeJean. Congratulations for his pick 6 on his birthday and Super Bowl win on his birthday. That's amazing. Quinyon Joyner, these sorts of guys. Yes, having an owner that's willing to take on void years with some of these contracts to make sure that you're absolutely stacked when the iron is hot and striking when the iron is hot is absolutely crucial. So when we go ahead and kind of look at the draft and free agency, I mean, let's just start, with the draft. I mean, when you're looking at like defensive line here, I think that again, at pick 20, this is going to be really, really hard to turn away from. Yes, I think trading down is obviously ideal. Getting like, man, can we get, 8 or 9 draft picks in this year's draft? That would be incredible. I just don't know if that's going to happen. If Walter Nolen falls to 20, this is a guy, again, that can be playing opposite of Zach Allen, somebody who can be rotating with Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, a dominant pass rusher. He's continuing to fly up the big boards. Maybe he doesn't fall to 20, but if he does, which is probably, slim odds right now, I think he definitely needs to be considered. Again, imagine having a guy opposite of Zach Allen that truly would demand as much attention as Zach Allen as well. Now, a guy that I think is going to be available at 20, which I think, again, is also going to be really hard to pass on, is Kenneth Grant, one of the true nose tackles in this draft. He's only a junior guy, so 21 years old, 340 pounds, 6'3". As you can see, I mean, he can give you a little bit in the pass rush as well, which is great. He can collapse the pocket. And on my film review that I've done with him, go check it out. I mean, that's what he does. Doesn't have a ton of sacks. That normally doesn't happen from the nose tackle position. No. But he can get pressure. He can bat balls in 23 hurries. That is substantial and has quite a motor. I mean, he's played over 500 snaps this year for the Michigan Wolverines. And again, a guy that can play that traditional A-gap nose tackle position. He can kick out a little bit more wide if you need him, but a really, really good player. Kenneth Grant, 6'3", 340 pounds, just turned 21 years old. Yes, please. Yes, please. Tyleik Williams. Let's say we are able to trade back. He's another guy from the defensive line standpoint that I think would be a tremendous addition here. Champion at Ohio State, still 21 years old, a little bit older than Kenneth Grant, but 6'3", 330 pounds, and he was a menace. He was a menace on this national title run, and just a lot of versatility. Yes, I mean, he can kind of play that A-gap position a little bit, but mainly a true kind of NFL defensive tackle. He can even play over the tackle, which is really interesting, but really good against the run. Still generated 17 hurries the past couple of years. I would love him. As we get into the second round, if we're looking to go D-line there, TJ Sanders from South Carolina, Omar Norman, a lot. I think that those are guys to look at. But another guy that I would be super interested in getting is Derek Harmon here out of Oregon. I think, again, we pick around, I think it's like pick 54, something like that. I'll look it up here in just a minute. But actually, I'll have to look it up here. But a guy that I think would be tremendous inside, Darius Alexander as well. A guy that I've talked a little bit about just flying up the draft boards. And when Alfred Collins and Deion Walker are like just hitting on top 10 right now in terms of rank in, the defensive tackle position group for the big board, I mean, that's great. There's a lot of depth here. I would not mind to see the Broncos take a couple defensive linemen. Heck, even a guy like Jordan Phillips could be really, really exciting, who had a big-time Shrine Bowl. I think he was the Shrine Bowl practice player of the week. Like, he was fantastic. And you can see 6'3", 320 pounds, redshirt sophomore, super young. And, yeah, no sacks, but who cares? Again, a position like that isn't going to get a ton of stats, but pass rush win rate over 10%, run stop rate over 7%, graded out well. Again, both pass and run, a little bit of versatility. You can kind of play him all over the line a little bit. Would really love him there. But guys, I know that we want the shiny new toys. We want the fancy wide receivers and the running backs. Don't get me wrong. I've been one of the biggest proponents of them. Tight end. Oh, good Lord, can we get a tight end? But this is not a draft right now that I feel like warrants us just going total offense and ignoring the talent that we can get on defense, because while we do have a really good defense, we're just a few pieces away from becoming a dominant defense. And that's why we can become the next Philadelphia Eagles, because we got tons of cap space. We'll have $50 to $60 million in cap space to work with this year. We'll have plenty of offensive weapons that we're bringing in via free agency for Bo Nix. And that's going to allow us to draft the best players available, just like the Philadelphia Eagles have been able to do the last couple of years. And if we're able to get lucky in a sense and find another Cody Barton type signing or an Alex Singleton type signing, on top of that, just like the Eagles did with Zach Bond, who's to say we can't challenge for a Super Bowl within Bo Nix's rookie contract? No doubt about it. I really do think when you look at like free agents, when you look at, let's say, the wide receiver position, again, we can't, I mean, we could make it work if we wanted to. T. Higgins is available. They're projecting here, Spot Track is projecting $25.4 million for him, a 4-year, $100 million contract. If that's all it's going to take, and it's not going to be ballooning over 30 million, I think you absolutely try and go for that. No doubt about it. Him, Cortland Sutton, the other young offensive weapons we have would be fantastic. A true number one. If not, Darius Slayton is absolutely going to be a steal in free agency this year. Commanding market of $16.9 million. You'll be able to get that cap hit really low as well with the ownership group that we have. But we're going to get the wide receiver position locked down. Last guy I'll look at here is Chris Godwin. They're projecting 22.5. Now, I'm not as pumped up about him as, per se, a T. Higgins. My friend Marky Sports, really big Chris Godwin guy. He knows football. So, hey, if he's big on Chris Godwin, that's something to keep note of. And I think he's going to be affordable. Now, can we get him away from Tampa? That's going to be interesting. But then when you look at tight end, Tyler Conklin's available, I think, for cheap. I think he'll be a serviceable tight end. Yeah, we can get him for under $10 million. We can get Jawan Johnson for about $10 million. Yeah, see, market value, 3 years, $30 million, which that's what I thought that he would make. Even bringing in a guy, a veteran such as Zach Ertz to help with the room, or I still haven't given up on Mo Alley Cox, man. I know he's 31 years old, but he's like a vet minimum guy that I think would just raise the floor of this tight end room, honestly. I think that, again, we can get the weapons that we need in free agency to an extent. Now, at running back, I mean, are we going to get a guy that absolutely changes the offense? No. Which is why probably in the first 3 rounds you're seeing the Broncos draft a running back, or maybe with their 4th round pick that they're getting somebody like that cat out of SMU, right? But Najee Harris, let's talk about Najee Harris. They're projecting him $9.2 million a year. We got the money to spend. Najee Harris did have a bounce back year this year, facing stacked boxes all the time. Only 26 years old right now. I would be interested for under $10 million. I would be interested in Aaron Jones for under $8 million. No doubt about it. Even though he's a little bit older. I ain't going back to Javonte Williams. I ain't doing it. Rico Dowdle. They're projecting $6.2 million. Man, I'm totally cool with that. But I think we'll be able to address our needs in free agency enough to where, again, we can take a defensive lineman in the first round if that's the best player there. Again, at defensive tackle right now, it's BJ Hill or DJ Jones. I thought DJ Jones had the better year compared to BJ Hill. And with what they're expecting with the contracts, that's going to be the same as well. They agree. $11.2 million for DJ Jones. I think you bring him back, and it truly does allow you, and you sign a linebacker, and it allows you to just go best player available in the draft. We have a lot of well-performing players on cheap contracts for this year. And so it's going to allow us, like the Eagles have done, is to surround that core with another with another like insulation of really, really good talent. And that's why, again, we've already been strong in the pass rush. We're already, essentially as perfect as you can get in the secondary in terms of our cornerbacks as you can ask for realistically. We need to address safety. I think we will. But at linebacker, a guy like Dre Greenlaw is going to be available for $6.7 million. That's what's predicted here. We could go after a more expensive linebacker. Where is Zach Bond? Do they still have him as an outside linebacker? I mean, he's going to be more expensive, $10 million a year or so. We could do a little bit older, 28 years old, but right in the middle of his prime. But we can afford to sign 2 inside linebackers. We can bring back Cody Barton for cheap. I would love for us to bring in Isaiah Simmons, but he didn't work well with Vance Joseph. So it is what it is. And then at the safety position, guys, like, I don't know if we'll spend super big on safety, but we can. We can. Justin Reed, $17.1 million. That's a little rich. But there are other safeties that I think that we should keep our mind on that I have talked about before. Javon Holland out of Miami. He's going to command a lot of money as well, $15.1 million. But we can afford that easily, guys, with what we have in cap space. So all that to say, I mean, we're really just a few additions and some high-end draft picks that end up hitting because we have the quarterback, because we have some young weapons that maybe aren't true number ones, but they're building blocks that you can have, such as a Marvin Mims. Man, I love that I'm able to say that. Such as, good complementary piece being Devon Bailey, right? Nice depth receiver. Something goes wrong. Cortland Sutton, I think will be here for the next few years. I think we'll sign him. Patrick Surtain, Riley Moss, all of these guys, including our edge rushers, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito, and the depth that we have there. Because the offensive line has been figured out, we're able to double down on some of these premium positions to where, hey, if we have an edge rusher go down, we're already good. We need to build that same type of depth into the defensive line. And if we're able to do that and seriously have a 2 deep to where you're able to sub somebody out like a Zach Allen, and then you're having a Walter Nolen go at this Chiefs offensive line, who's to say we can't be the next team to beat in the AFC West? Now, again, it's going to take a lot of work, but we are in position with our cap space, with our rookie quarterback to truly hit on this. And we need to capitalize this window. Why I would put us above the Chargers is because the Chargers already have that big contract with Justin Herbert that's already starting to hit now. Not ideal. We have Bo Nix on a rookie contract. Russell Wilson money's gone after this year, and it's not even really an issue going into this season because of the cap space that we've generated. We are in position to strike just as hot as the Commanders are in the same position right now. They had a great run. Why couldn't the Broncos have the same run in the NFC? Just saying. So with that being said, I guess I'll do like one quick little mock draft here and then get to some of your comments. But guys, like after watching this game where the Philadelphia Eagles just dismantled the Chiefs, man, a complacent Kansas City Chiefs team, I don't know how you can't be pumped up, man. All that, those missed draft picks, the bad investment in the offensive line that they've made, I don't know how you can't be pumped up about what's going on here, for the Broncos. So, hey, now we're in this position here at 20. Walter Nolen's available. Matthew Golden, Kenneth Grant, Nick Skirton, Tyleek Williams. What are we going to do? Man, should we trade back with the Packers, try and get another pick, see what can happen? Then we just take like the best of what's available. Let's do it. Let's grab their third and go for it. Oh, man. Walter Nolen, Kenneth Grant. I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant. I'm just going to do it. But Walter Nolen would be amazing too. Because we can get somebody like Derek Harmon as well that can also kind of play that Walter Nolen position. So, guys, I'm going defense. I'm going defense with these first 2 picks. Isn't that fun? Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. You got a Jalen Royals available, a Mason Taylor, Devin Neal. Oh, my gosh. Harold Fannin, Tez Johnson. So many good players. Right now, I'm going to go with Mason Taylor. Over at tight end. Tez Johnson sniped. Well, that's all right. We'll be able to work through it. Guess we'll go with Devin Neal here at running back. I really like him unless there's like a safety y'all think is worth it, but we'll figure out this secondary stuff. We need a game changer like Devin Neal. He's going to be an absolute steal. And then, this is where I think you can still get great bang for your buck here. Brashard Smith is available. We could take him. Willie Lampkin at guard. But how about Jalen Knoll or Barrett Carter? He's available. He's a pretty good linebacker at Clemson. JJ Pegas. Oh, man, 3 defensive linemen. That would be tempting. But you know what I'm going to go with here? I'm going to go with tackle here. Andrew Mason suggested this, I think. Or maybe it was some other show I was listening to. Maybe it was Broncos for Breakfast on Mile High Huddle. They were saying maybe you go tackle in the mid-rounds. Get somebody in the pipeline. Why not go Jay Higgins at linebacker? I like Jay Higgins. Then this is where things get really, really interesting. You go with safety, like Elijah Clark, Miles Frazier over at guard, Ty Felton, Ricky White at wide receiver, Luke Lachey. You could double down at tight end. But, man, I'm going to go with my guy here, Efton Chisholm. I'm an Efton Chisholm guy, baby, at wide receiver. He's going to be absolutely fantastic. Aronde Gatson, RJ Mickens. I don't know anything about Dean Clark, but, man, his grades are very impressive. 6'1", senior. Man, he plays all over the place. Slot, box, deep. But I do like RJ Mickens as well. We're going to go with RJ Mickens here at safety. And there we go. That's your draft here. So all that to say, hey, we're able to get essentially Devin Neal for free because we traded down just a few spots, right? To go get a guy like Kevin Grant still there. We're able to take Derek Harmon. I mean, those are 2 building blocks that you could have on your defensive line in addition to the edges that we have and still Zach Allen right in the middle of his prime. Grabbing a Mason Taylor at tight end to pair with Juwan Johnson. A halfback like Devin Neal, where if we do sign a guy like Najee Harris or Aaron Jones or Rico Dowdle, maybe it's not totally necessary to go running back in the 3rd round. Maybe you could get a Brashard Smith in the 4th and be okay. But, man, I really do think, guys, defensive line might be the best bang for your buck at pick 20 if that Tyler Warren or Ashton Genty isn't there. Maybe Colston Loveland sneaks in there as being a guy that you just can't pass on. But right now, I would view those guys like Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolen as guys in higher priority that you can't pass on. And I do think that there are some sneaky good ads that you can find at wide receiver in day 3 to where I don't know if it needs to be a top 3 round pick, depending on kind of how the board is falling. So thanks for listening to me, guys, on here. I'll get to some of your thoughts here in just a minute. Gonna give a shout out here to Kodiak. I linked your video in the description of this. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I know you had a video on things that we've learned from the Broncos this year. Let's get to it. Yes, we need a Pegasus, JJ Pegasus, baby. I think it would be a lot of fun. But, man, guys, I just don't know how you can't be thinking that or excited about where the Broncos are going right now after watching this Philadelphia Eagles team just be dominant. And it was different than kind of the 2015 Broncos because a lot of those guys we had on defense, they were veterans right in the middle of their prime. I think what's really, really exciting about this is that we still have so many guys that are playing really well that aren't even close to their prime right now. So you continue to round out this defense with an insane amount of depth, and you can do it for cheaper than how the Eagles have done it. I would be bricked up if we drafted Felton after being a month-long devoted Maryland fan. Kodiak, how did you become a Maryland fan? But Felton's one of those. Ty Felton's definitely a sleeper you can get on day 3. Again, Efton Chisholm, the Colorado guys. There's a lot of Ricky White from UNLV. I mean, he would be a fun pick as well. There's a handful of guys that I think you can be excited about. And guys, you might not want to hear this, but remember, we thought Marvin Mims was a 0 at this point last year. Okay. Why can't the same thing be for Troy Franklin? Okay. And I know you guys are like, man, Tez Johnson's amazing. I know he's an incredible separator, all that sorts of stuff. But who's to say, man? Troy Franklin can't become a really good wide receiver. I don't know if we need to spend a day 2 pick on a wide receiver if we're able to address that in free agency, whether it's Chris Godwin or even a tier 2 signing like Darius Slayton, something like that. It's not totally needed. Paul has morning break. Hilarious. I love it. Kodiak, the Eagles making Mahomes their bitch is going to have me bricked up for the whole offseason, Paul. Man, I'll tell you about that. Just incredible. Just incredible. And you know what's so crazy is that, man, those refs still weren't called in holding calls. They still weren't called in the holding calls on that Chiefs O-line. They had maybe a couple calls, but man, it was hard for them to shut down that defensive line. And credit to Vic Fangio, he finally did it. 1-8 now against Pat Mahomes. I was worried about that coming into this game. He just doesn't beat Patrick Mahomes, but he finally had the defensive personnel, man, to really own it. And an offense that was not anemic as well. That was a huge, huge thing. But you've seen it. Jalen Hurts isn't the most perfect quarterback out there, right? But you know what they did? They went and got Saquon Barkley. They went and got A.J. Brown in addition to putting a ton of assets into that defensive line. And that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do is from a Broncos perspective. We have the offensive line figured out. That's massive. We have the quarterback figured out. That's massive as well. Now let's just go get a wide receiver, a tight end, a running back. And after that, man, we can just go best player available in the draft. Because I really do feel like we will try and address all those positions in free agency to some extent. Man, D-Rock, or not D-Rock. Yes, D-Rock's in here. I'm in the boat of drafting Derek Harmon, and I hope I'm not alone. Dude, let's go. Dude, even if we draft 2 defensive linemen, man, Broncos country should not be freaking out with how the Eagles played if this is a scenario of how we do things, right? Big E, what's going on, man? Good to see you. He says, woke up this morning, was great. The NFL finally, just like The Rock does, stay out of the game. Yes. This was great to see. And I know a lot of people, Chiefs fans, are saying, Kelsey's washed and that he should retire. I don't think he should retire. I think all things considered, he was still very, very good this year. But I just think it's so crazy that I was on the Chiefs subreddit and they were talking about how, oh yeah, Kelsey just needs to retire because Mahomes, in order for Mahomes to develop, Travis Kelsey needs to go away. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That's dumb. You got a Hall of Fame tight end. He still put up close to 900 yards this year. At 35 years old, he's still a very good tight end. And trust me, this is coming from a fan that has been watching their team with the worst tight end group in the NFL, man. Chiefs fans, arrogant. I've never known, hey, take away a Hall of Fame weapon. Maybe they're in the twilight of their career, but somehow that's supposed to benefit the quarterback because he looks at him less. Man, please. Were these going to be a big problem moving forward? Possibly, but again, you got to remember he did that against backups, man. For the most part, I ain't too worried about it, but again, it's easy for me to say right now after they got blown out, right? if Rashee Rice is able to bounce back from that knee injury in which Patrick Mahomes knocked him out. That was crazy, by the way. Um, but yeah, like that speed is very concerning. I don't think he's like Tyreek Hill level, right? But if he's able to take another step, that could be an issue. No doubt about it. Shout out to Cooper DeJean. No doubt about it. I got a friend from Texas who is second cousins with Cooper DeJean. How about that? How about that random connection? I've seen his profile on my Facebook suggested to me. Where it says you can add a friend. Him and Reed Blankenship. But I ain't gonna be like that. Get Bond now. You pay $10 million for him. I mean, it would be a lot of fun. I wonder why Sean Payton. I mean, granted, maybe we did make an offer for Zach Bond last year, and he wanted to go to a true contender. Don't blame him. Getting paid. I would love it. I would love it if we can get Bond in here. I'm a little less on the Nick Bolton train after seeing how poorly he performed in the Super Bowl, man. Yeah, no thank you. No thank you. He can go. We don't need him. We're going to have Cody Barton. We're going to have somebody like Zach Bond or Drake Greenlaw. We're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. But you go and you reinvest in the defensive line somehow. I mean, I would be just thrilled if something like this would happen. And we still get a guy like Mason Taylor, Devin Neal in the third. Oh, please. Please, Lord. Let's go, Fravel Edits. Dude, sorry about your Irish. I was rooting hard for them, man. I was rooting hard for them. Thank you for the $5. Says the Chiefs dynasty is over. The Broncos are set up to be the better team in the future with Bo Nix. Get them some weapons, $50 million in cap. We're winning the West. Yeah, that's how I feel. Dude, I feel like we're going to be right there to win the AFC West. And you look at how the Broncos were trending this year. I mean, yeah, we beat a lot of teams that we should beat, but that's part of building towards that dominant level of team that you're trying to build, right? You have to beat the teams that you should beat. And we pretty much did that. And we played a lot of these games going up against tougher opponents, I think, pretty well this year. We're going to have one of the best off seasons in recent memory for the Broncos. I mean, probably since 2014? Was that 2014 or 2015 when we went and got Aqib Talib, DeMarcus Ware, all those guys? I can't remember if TJ Ward was part of that. I think he was before, but you guys understand what I'm saying, right? We got cap space to play with. We have good draft picks, and good positioning to where we're going to get quality players. We're not going to be stuck with the 31st pick in the draft or 32nd year after year after year right now. Nah, man, we might be missing on our first round picks, but we've been able to hit in the later rounds. Thank you, George Payton. Our second round picks have hit recently, so that's great. Credit to Sean Payton for developing these guys. But again, everything is lining up perfectly for us to take a jump this year. And $50 million in cap space, 7 draft picks. That's what I'm talking about, y'all. Is it just me, or should the Kansas City Chiefs not even been in the Super Bowl? The NFL referees would have stayed out of it. Yeah, they won't. They would have lost to the Texans. I totally agree, man. It's very clear that they get favoritism from the refs. And I was even keeping track yesterday again of how many missed calls that I felt like the refs had. It ended up being +2 in favor of the Chiefs compared to the Eagles by my biased orange and blue, biased eyes. But take that for what you will. It was great to see that team humbled. It was great to see the Eagles come out and say all that three-peat talk really rubbed them the wrong way. They took it personally, and they played like it. Kansas City was a 10-win team at best. Yeah, they continued to play with fire, and they weren't dominant. I'm trying to think, I know the Broncos won a handful of double-digit or single-digit games their 2015 year, but man, it was just different. It just felt different. Like we never felt like we were escaping just by the skin of our teeth or whatever, right? Eagles have spent 0 of 15 first-round picks in the Howie era on inside linebacker, safety, running back, and tight end are needs this offseason. Wow. Very interesting. And again, I don't think you spend a first round pick on those positions either, um, to an extent, unless they truly are what you feel like they can be, like an elite talent. And they've gone defensive line, right? Um, you could have maybe seen them go first round running back if they weren't going to get a guy like Saquon, right? That's alternate reality, I guess. But inside linebacker, I don't think is a position you normally draft in the first round. Same with running back and tight end. Outside of one running back, I agree with you. Outside of 1 to 2 tight ends, I agree with you. One tight end, I agree with you. It's going to be fun to see what happens, but don't get it wrong, man. Going defensive line with some of these premium picks should be something that would pay off. And I know we made fun of George Payton years ago for when he drafted Pat Surtain, saying we just got you know the the safest pick in the draft. I think is what he said. Man, when you got the quarterback, that you want guys that will hit, right? I think a lot of these defensive linemen are going to be hits. Hydra Ammo. I love that name, by the way. Justin Reed's a sleeper the Broncos should get. He's a big reason why Saquon didn't have big runs. Justin Reed played very well in run yesterday. Yes. And is he a guy that can kind of play next to Brandon Jones? Because I always feel like we see Justin Reed, like make those plays in the run, kind of similar to Brandon Jones. Could he play more of that deep coverage safety role as well? Let me see here. What's his I'm going to look up his coverage grade. But I would love to bring him out here because one, it just steals guys, from the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's a position in need. Like, no doubt. Let's see coverage grade. Wow. Ranked 12th out of 170 safeties. 2 interceptions this year. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. Sign me up. So they got him playing mainly strong safety here, which makes sense of how close to the line he plays, which I do think that's what Brandon Jones. I guess they got him at free safety. Yeah. Guess sometimes I'd get confused with where they'd have him in lock. So yeah, maybe you do have both. Guess we started him at strong safety like half the year or whatever, just depending on what was going on. Sign me up, man. Sign me up, Brandon Jones, Justin Reed. Then you got Riley Moss, and hey, congratulations to Pat Surtain, man. I owe him a video on here. No doubt about it. Defensive player of the year. Incredible. I'll go for a few more minutes, guys, and I'll wrap this thing up. Got to get back to work. Yeah, don't forget, Bo Nix outplayed Mahomes with a way worse roster. No more devil magic. Yes. This reminds me of the year before we got Manning. You can just see everything starting to fall in place, right? Totally agree with you. Thanks again for the super chat. D-Rock. Plus, we can front load contracts or restructure. So don't worry about the cap space, Mile High Country. If we want a player, we're going to get that player. I totally agree. And I think the ownership, they just needed to have a quarterback that they believe in, play well. Granted, the Russell Wilson cap hit also had a lot to do with it. But now that they know Bo Nix is their guy, I don't see this group being an ownership group that spares any expense because they have it. You look at what they're doing with the training, the nutrition, upping that, changing out the turf half the year or throughout half the year for player safety. We've been so much better. Any chance you think you can get T. Higgins? Personally, I'd go all in on him. So PFF has his projected contract of like over $30 million a year. Spot Track has his as around $25 million on like a 4-year deal. I mean, I think it would be really great to get T. Higgins. Now, some people say he's injury prone. Again, Cincinnati is one of the worst run franchises in the NFL. Uh, do they have an indoor practice facility yet? Like that too is also just mind boggling. But again, like I just talked about, we now have one of the better nutrition, training, recovery, rehab staffs in the NFL right now. So I think you get a guy like T. Higgins out here, I think he'll be able to stay healthy longer. Okay. I think it would be great. Now, if he's going to cost $30+ million, you probably have to move off of Cortland Sutton for him. I think I would probably do that, at least today. I know I've changed my opinion on that, but the issue is that you only save $7 million right now in cap space if you cut Cortland Sutton. You're not getting rid of like the all $15 million or whatever. Now, maybe we could front load that T. Higgins contract, extend Cortland Sutton, get his cap hit down a little bit, and then it can work with both of them. Sure. But I think it has to be structured to where you probably don't want Cortland and T. Higgins on the same team or on the same roster for long term. That's just going to eat up too much of the cap. My thing about Bolton is Chiefs fans have been saying he's way overpaid. He'll be way overpaid in free agency. He's a great run stopper, blitzer, tackle for loss guy, but a dead zero in coverage. Greenlaw clears by a mile. Well, then we need a guy that can cover. And again, let's double down on the defensive line as well. Our linebackers will look better, just like a running back usually looks better with a good offensive line, unless there are running backs and they're just blind as bats out there. Yeah, I think he matches Jones and Moss's physicality, wants to punish the running backs in regards to Justin Reed. Yeah, he's very, very good. And again, I just love the idea of taking a championship player away from them like that. And, they had the Honey Badger beforehand and moved off of him to sign Justin Reed. Are you going to be able to get another all-pro level player like that, a third time in a row via free agency? We'll have to see. Maybe Spags is that much of a genius. Julian bringing up a wonderful point here. Watching the Super Bowl, it's going to push those DL edge players up in the draft. Harmon is a first rounder, and there's a good chance Warren or Loveland definitely fall to us. It's been really interesting to see like the variance in where these different sites have Derek Harmon, because I would agree with you that I think he's like a French first guy, back into the first guy in terms of like how high he can go. And I feel like this whole end of first round into the second round, it's kind of like a crapshoot. But yeah, let's say some of these guys like Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolen get pushed up, then we might actually have a really good offensive weapon fall to us. And there's still plenty of guys. Again, we could go with a guy like Alfred Collins in the second or third round at defensive line. I still believe in Deion Walker, man. He's only 20 years old. Okay. I still believe in Deion Walker, especially if we grab him in like the third or fourth round. Okay. So there's still plenty of D linemen that we could go after. But it would be interesting if we used our premium picks on those guys. Yeah. Let's get Justin Reed, baby. Let's get it. I would love to get one Kansas City Chief on our team this year. Maybe it's a depth player, somebody that can just provide that championship leadership and experience. Cool. But it would also be great if they're like an all-pro level player. And that's what you're willing to pay for in free agency. What's your take on the Raiders becoming competitive in our division after getting Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll? Generally, are you afraid of them? I will be afraid of them once I see what they do at quarterback. If they're able to sign like a good quarterback. If it's Russell Wilson, no. But if they're able to draft at some point or via free agency, if they were to bring in Sam Darnold, I think that would be a really good signing for them. I hope that doesn't happen, but I don't know. I just kind of got this feeling that something like that could happen. Pete Carroll's worked some magic with some of the quarterbacks up in Seattle. But again, I think to challenge in this division, you're going to need a really good quarterback. Having Russell Wilson or somebody of that caliber right now, it's just not going to cut it. A washed Aaron Rodgers, could he be better in Las Vegas than he was with the Jets? Quite possibly, but Aaron Rodgers just doesn't seem like a Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, no nonsense kind of guy. So I don't really see that happening. But am I really worried about the Raiders this year from like an overall like AFC West contention standpoint? No, but I do feel like their defense is going to be a pain in the butt from this year on. Colorado saying, I'm not big on Kenneth Grant, but I love the emphasis on the trenches regardless. Well, then how about we just sub out Kenneth Grant for Walter Nolen? How about that? It would be great. But yeah, let's continue to invest in the trenches. When you have a good offense, a good run game, and a dominant D-line, you see what the ceiling of this team is, man. And I can't wait to see what they do. I mean, bring in a guy like Rico Dowdle. You draft another guy like Devin Neal. You bring in Jawan Johnson. You draft a tight end. Let's say it's Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren. Please, God, if he falls to us, it's game over. If Tyler Warren falls to us, it is absolutely game over. Our next tight end for the next 10 years. It's going to be absolutely dominant, baby. Wide receiver will figure out because I think our wide receivers, one, they're going to get better. They're going to continue to develop. And when they have a run game and a tight end threat, they're going to look even better as well. So I think casuals might see, like, people who maybe kind of talk about the Broncos from like a national perspective that don't follow them too closely might just say, oh yeah, like wide receiver is a clear need. But I think if you fix running back, tight end, those are really the issues that lead to the wide receivers like being so bad, in my opinion. But yeah, like I'm so excited for this offseason, guys. I love doing all the quarterback videos last year, but now we truly get to take that step into building a complete team. Julian saying we're going to be in good draft selection, honestly. I do like Emeka Egbuka as well. Just don't know if I can pass up tight end or edge or running back for him. Yeah. Emeka, and it's not like I would be disappointed if we go with somebody like Emeka Egbuka with our first round pick. I'll be pumped up, trust me. But we'll have to see how the rest of the board falls. I mean, I don't want us to disregard the defense in this draft. Just my overall gauge on this draft is that there's just a lot of good defensive line players, as there are also this is a good draft for running backs and tight ends as well. So yeah. Dude, Kodiak calling it right now. Troy Franklin will go for 1,100 yards next year. Oh my God, dude. If that happens, dude, I want this. I'm going to hop on the Troy Franklin 1,100 yard year bandwagon with you, Kodiak. That sounds like a lot of fun. Because it's hype season, baby. It's time to hype our guys up. Y'all smash that like if you want Troy Franklin to be a Pro Bowl player. Tight end feels like a luxury pick in round one. Want to give Vance Joseph some round one talent to replicate his first 10 weeks of the year. Yeah. And that's the other thing, I don't know if you can get a Walter Nolen in the third round. You can get another, I think, pretty serviceable tight end there in the third round. That's the other thing. You're right. Tight end is usually a premium pick. I'm with you on that. I mean, when you look at the Ravens, who was the first round tight end they drafted a while back? He turned out to kind of be nothing. Was it Hayden Hurst? He's just kind of been a journeyman. But the guy they drafted, was it day 3 or late day 2? Mark Andrews has been, awesome until, dropping passes this year. You lean Warren or Loveland? Warren. I know that he's a little bit older, but still just a little bit more versatile. And I think Sean Payton I think he's foaming at the mouth for a guy like Warren. But I do think Loveland also profiles as like a Joker type player for us. It's nice that he's younger. That's always cool. But I mean, I think Warren's more close to just kind of a plug and play ready guy. So Kodiak, man, is Owazurike going to be anything on the D line, or is he too concerned about his FanDuel account again? Yeah, man, let's. I'll get to this. And credit to you for spelling Owazurike correctly. I mean, we didn't see much of him. He was inactive for most of the year, so that kind of has me wondering. Is that just kind of what he's going to be? 6'6", 320 pounds, fourth round selection out of Iowa State a few years ago. Seemed to grade out really well against the run. Had a sack against the Raiders. Yeah, 9 total tackles. 63 snaps, though. I mean, there's just not really much you can get from that. I'll need to go and take a look at the NFL Plus film room on him and stuff. See how he did. All right, guys. Well, really appreciate you guys coming in here. This was fun, like talking for almost an hour. Was not expecting to do that. But, man, today is just a great day. All is right in the world. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Congratulations to freaking Jalen Hurts. Totally deserves it. And congratulations to Vic Fangio, an amazing defensive coordinator. Congratulations to him. Finally beat Mahomes, 1-8 now. So good for him. I'll be back later, Broncos country. Till next time, smash that like, subscribe, go Broncos.